What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling, and we're going to be talking today about it's the big weekend. It's WrestleMania XL, the biggest WrestleMania, extra large WrestleMania, the biggest one of all time. And it's coming to you this weekend on Peacock and the WWE Network if you're internationally. Lots of press going on, Hall of Fame, all this other stuff. And I want to talk about the press today in the last 24 hours, the last 48 hours really, as we're doing and seeing all of these pressers leading up to WrestleMania. You got Rock and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, I should say, and Roman Reigns on late night television shows. You got the Usos on shows. Of course, Pat McAfee has his own show. He had Triple H on there, and Jade Cargill's on Busted Open Radio, and all this other stuff. CM Punk's on the MMA show, and all this other stuff. And the one thing that the one thing that sticks out to me so much, that this is not only the WrestleMania XL Kickoff media scrum, media surge. It is also the the victory lap that WWE is doing over All Elite Wrestling. It is really funny to see how they do it. One in particular is this interaction with Pat McAfee and Triple H from the other day.
And go all out and make it work, and that's just how it works. If we can do that, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Hey, you saying that we're in a competition against ourselves, certainly going to be come on. Up and to the right, baby. Up and to the right. That ain't our fault. That ain't your fault.
Not saying anything to be controversial. I'm spitting facts.
I love the subtleness there because Triple H is like the brilliant way he does that. Like, I'm throwing shade, but I'm not throwing shade. I'm just spitting facts. But you got McAfee there to kind of imply the shade, and then the fist bump over it. So, I didn't say anything about it. Hey, that wasn't me. You know, it's freaking fantastic. In just a comical way as just watching this stuff. Of course, there was the big CM Punk interview. I've talked about that already. Jade Cargill I saw today. Busted Open Radio. They kind of had her kind of inadvertently nodding some shade thrown towards AEW. She didn't directly throw shade, but she obviously she's not going to stick up for the company. She's not there anymore. And she made some very valid points, which is what I always thought, is that Jade Cargill was not fit for AEW. She was a WWE wrestler in an AEW company. And, she's like, she didn't say anything bad about him. She's like, well, it's a startup and, I'm 31 and I need to do it now. I need to be a star now. I can't wait for AEW to get to wherever it may or may not get to. So, again, and I don't think anybody's ever had an issue with Jade Cargill going to WWE. I think we all kind of expected it and thought she probably should have been there from the jump anyway. Because not because one's better than the other one, but she's just more of a fit for that style. There are people, again, who are more fit for something like WWE, and people who are more fit for AEW, and people who are more fit for other wrestling companies. But the amount of the way that they have just, like, almost every interview I've seen so far, there's something where there's some jab at AEW. The blood is in the water. The blood is in the water. And look, poor AEW. AEW ain't hurting for nothing. Especially financially, they're letting people go because they cut their budget, so they're tightening up their ship over there. And this had a whole bunch of releases, which 5 years in, almost 5 years into being a company, that this is the first time they've ever had batch mass releases like this. It was like a dozen people. It's actually kind of impressive because a lot of other companies have it multiple times in a year. But for the AEW fans out there, this is going to be an insufferable weekend for you. I kind of said something about it on social media about their fans, but it's now also WWE itself and their fans. This is the impression I get from them. I finally was like, that's what it is. They're the bullies from Race From Your Life, Charlie Brown, a cartoon I watched when I was a little kid.
Look, kid, get this and get it good. We run this camp. We were number 1 tent 2 years ago, and we were number 1 tent last year. And we're gonna be number 1 tent this year, too. We're number 1! We're number 1! Yay! This'll show them once and for all. Yeah, it's time to give those creeps a real lesson.
You shouldn't have tried to beat us. Nobody beats us ever.
They deserve whatever they get.
It's actually pretty hysterical because overall, that's basically what you just keep. That's essentially what you hear all the time. That's what you're hearing constantly, 24/7. it does touch on one thing, and I'm going to hop off the AEW thing, and we got to talk about Mania going into this. But the funny thing about it is, for me, it's like it's an unforeseen thing that I didn't see, which, and I covered this in a couple videos here and there, but I'm gonna put it together in one sentence, in one paragraph now. I'm half reading it off a script, but I didn't anticipate that the WWE would have so many people in the wrestling industry that would be advocating and be part of its marketing campaign against AEW. And that is the biggest thing that AEW was always going to have a problem with, because WWE is almost first and foremost a marketing company. And you're going up against some of the most skilled marketing people in the history of entertainment, period. And when you're going up against WWE. And I didn't realize that how many former wrestlers and people would just be constantly on this bandwagon. And yes, they're pointing out problems that are in AEW, and AEW has its problems, but when you hear something over and over and over and over again, for a fan base, let's be honest about it, that has a very large portion of it that are front runner chasers and people who, they suffer from FOMO, fear of missing out. If you keep pounding that message home and you got all these other people pounding that message home, AEW's got to be perfect all the time just to maintain. WWE can be bad, as we've seen. WWE can be bad for 10 years and still keep an audience. So this is the state of the wrestling industry. It is what it is. But outside of all of the shade, funny stuff that they've been throwing at AEW, there is a very, very palpable feeling this year for WrestleMania heading into it, that it does feel like a lot of people have said, like, the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, like, WrestleMania come around, and you see this you've seen this in prior years where people are like, it doesn't feel like WrestleMania season. This year, it definitely feels like WrestleMania season. You can feel the energy in the air. You can feel the energy in the community. You can feel it when you're watching WWE and all of the pressers and all of the skits and the promos and the interviews and everything else. It's definitely WrestleMania feel this year, which is really cool, which is a cool thing. I haven't had this much excitement for WrestleMania in a while, and it was a buildup of 2 years for them to get here. I'm looking for it, but again, not to make it all positive for the WWE, because there are some negatives. And the only negatives I can see out of this is, number one, it is still a 2-match show. It is a 2-match, 2-night show. The only thing I'm really looking forward to this weekend, and I think most people is, which is not a bad thing, this is for boxing, but for wrestling is a little bit different. But it's the tag match main event from the first night, and Roman versus Cody on the second night. The rest of the card, there's some cool stuff, like Gunther and Sami Zayn could be interesting. Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins with CM Punk on commentary, that could be interesting. Most of the rest of the show, though, it's like, it's okay, but it's nothing really special. There's nothing on the undercard that's really screaming out to me like, oh, I can't wait for that match, right? Now, the performances, however, are going to be something different, because somebody in that undercard, I'm predicting this is going to be like the Ricky Steamboat. They're going to have a Ricky Steamboat Macho Man Randy Savage match on the show. That's not going to be like heavily promoted as a big massive thing, but it's going to probably wind up stealing the show that nobody expected to be as good as it's going to be. I am predicting that's going to happen with one of these undercard matches. Again, I think at the end of the day, we all kind of are expecting that this is the end of Cody's 2-year journey. This is the end of the 2.5, almost 3-year Bloodline storyline. It's all going to culminate here at WrestleMania XL. Which brings up the other downside, possibly for this weekend, is, we're about 2 years in. We're in the middle part. Triple H was talking about this on the Pat McAfee show. He's talking about the eras, and he's like, "Well, I think we're just getting started." Every time somebody says that, I kind of recoil when he said it. Because I'm enjoying WWE being good again. And I kind of recoil when he said it. I was like, oh, don't say that. That's like the jinx. Every time you have one of these franchises or something where things are going really hot and somebody goes, we're just getting started, it usually, when you go back and look at it, it's like, and that was the peak of the whole thing. But also, I mean, for the sake as a wrestling fan and for the sake of WWE fans, I hope it isn't the peak. I mean, I've covered this before too, that, these hot eras, they tend to last about 3 to 5 years. You can look at any hot era for the last 40 or 50 years in wrestling. That's pretty much this time span. The Rock and Wrestling era was 4 or 5, what was that, 4 years, 4 or 5 years. The Attitude Era was 4 years. WCW Nitro early days, that was 3 to 4 years. ECW was hot for 3 years. TNA was hot for 3 years. New Japan just came off being hot for 4 years. AEW just came off being hot for 3 years. NXT Black and Gold was hot for 3 to 4 years. We're in the second year of WWE's melodrama era, the Tribal Chief era, the Bloodline era, the Triple H era, whatever this era winds up being called at the end of the day. And yeah, I think they got a couple more years left on this, but it does depend greatly on them tidying up this story, bringing a conclusion to this story at WrestleMania XL with the Bloodline and with Cody at the same time, and then starting off on a new story that's hot. That's a very difficult thing to do. In fact, I can't think of any wrestling company, as long as I've been watching wrestling, and I've been watching wrestling a long time, that ever had back-to-back hot angles like that. The Bloodline Cody storyline, it's one of the hottest angles in the history of wrestling. Up there with Austin McMahon, up there with anything else, NWO, Ron Erickson, Freebirds, whatever you want to throw up there. Very hard to have them happen back to back, but we'll see. Triple H, this is his first time. This is because you have to keep in mind Triple H ran NXT, but this is his first time really going through a hot streak era. And the NXT Black and Gold era, that was a hot streak. He was still running it when they cooled off, and it never really kind of recovered. They're doing better now, but I can't say NXT now is anything as hot as it was back in the original Black and Gold era from 2014 to 2018. So this is going to be the test for both companies. Are going to be tested this year. AEW is going to get tested for hitting that point where, you know, like other companies, there's a tendency to want to just start doing more of what WWE is doing. They have to resist that. WWE and Triple H are going to be tested because this is the first hot streak, the first hot era under Triple H's leadership. And what happens if it starts to cool off? Because it will cool off, because they always do. Do they have a plan in mind, and is that plan going to be executed that they can continue into another hot streak when this current storyline is over? That's the thing I'm most interested in. Coming into WrestleMania, going through WrestleMania, and in the months that follow from here on for the rest of the year after WrestleMania XL, what is the storyline going to be? Are they going to try to drag out the Bloodline to be even more of a storyline again? We know eventually we are going to get The Rock and Roman at some point in the future, maybe next year's WrestleMania, or maybe SummerSlam. How is Cody going to be as the face of the company without the foil of Roman Reigns to be up against as the babyface good guy? Are the fans going to start booing him? And of course, you know, there's Phil, and everybody's looking at their watches like, when is Phil going to be Phil? But I'm hoping for the best for this weekend. I hope everybody enjoys WrestleMania weekend. If you are a wrestling fan, I will say this. I'm a pro wrestling fan. WrestleMania is always something that I'm going to watch as long as I am a pro wrestling fan, because it is, at the end of the day, you can call it sports entertainment. You can have all the lasers and lights and 3D printed stuff and VR this and LED lights on everything on Michael Cole's ass. You can do all of that. But at the end of the day, it comes down to a ring, wrestlers, a referee, and a crowd. And if they can do that, great. This weekend, I'm going to be happy. But I want to know what you guys think. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. How are you enjoying the pre-WrestleMania XL festivities? What do you think about this victory lap that they're doing around AEW's, what they are presenting as AEW's corpse? And what are you looking forward to this weekend with WrestleMania XL? What's the match that you're looking forward to the most? Is it the two main events, or is that undercard got something that you're looking forward to more than the conclusion of Cody and Roman's storyline? Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, I will see you guys here for more news, rumors, and commentary on Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.
We're number one! Yay! This'll show them once and for all. Yeah, it's time to give those creeps a real lesson.
You shouldn't have tried to beat us. Nobody beats us ever.
They deserve whatever they get.